All right, so today we want to know how to divide polynomials by polynomials. So long division from a number perspective, we reviewed that to kind of get the idea of what we have, what kind of questions do we have to ask ourselves to be able to do this. Now we're going to do it with polynomials. So the first example that you have, I wrote the wrong, yep, it should be positive x squared, I believe. Let me make sure I've got it right. Yeah, positive x squared, okay. So ignore this negative up here. We're going to divide x squared minus x minus 6 by x minus 3. That's number 1 on your worksheet. So you have to ask yourself some questions. Okay? With that problem with the number 7, we had to ask ourselves, how many times does 7 go into whatever, right? So we're doing the same thing here. How many times does x go into x squared? In other words, what do we have to multiply x by to get x squared? X. Okay, so we're going to take an x and we're going to put it up there. Okay? So we're concerned about our first term. X times what gives me x squared? So when we do that, let's do our multiplication. X times x is x squared. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. What was our next step in long division? Subtract. So we're going to change the signs of everybody. We change the sign of x squared to negative x squared. We change the sign of a negative 3x to a positive 3x.
Because if you're subtracting a negative, it's added, correct? Everyone got that? That's why she changed it.
Mm-hmm.
You subtract, you're subtracting a negative, so that's why we changed the sign. That's the one thing people forget to do when their answers get used up. So maybe even make a note of that off to the side.
Change the sign of both. Don't just change the sign of the first one. Okay, we're subtracting, so we want to get rid of all those guys. All right, so x squared minus x squared gone. That was our whole goal, right? But when we add a negative x and a positive 3x, what do we get? 2x. What was the next thing that we did in long division? Bring down our next number, right? So we're going to bring the 6 down, the negative 6 down. Now, what question do you ask yourself? What do I multiply x by in order to get 2x? 2. Okay? So it was a positive 2, right? So we put a plus 2. We want to make it match. Okay? X times a positive 2, 2x. Negative 3 times a positive 2, negative 6. What's the next step? Change the signs. Yep, plug in those opposite signs. And then we add them up. Gone, gone. We have no remainder. Okay? Everybody good with this one? Okay? Now, what this means, when it came out to 0, no remainder, is that x plus 2 and x plus 3 are factors. Does that make sense? X plus 2 times x minus 3 gives me x squared plus 2x minus 3x, which is a negative x, and negative 3 times a positive 2 is negative 6. So these guys are perfect factors. There were no remainders. So if you didn't know how to factor, you could do long division and try some things out. It would be kind of a pain. Factoring's more efficient. Okay? All right, let's look at number 2. Now we're dividing 2x squared plus 9x minus 35 by x plus 7. So what's the first question you ask yourself? In the old days, we said how many times does such and such go into such and such, right? Right. How many times does x go into 2x squared, right? Or what does x have to be multiplied by to get 2x squared? 2x. So we write our 2x up there. Now what? What do you think, Jordan? What do we do next? Good. X by 2x gets me 2x squared. Now what? Yep. We have to do the 7 times 2x as well. Okay? So both of these guys get multiplied by 2x. So 7 times 2x is, because in the old days of long division, we didn't have somebody hanging out with it, did we? But now that we do, both terms have to be multiplied by whatever we put up there. Okay? Next step, Tristan. Change the signs. Very good. If you have a different color ink or something, it's not a bad thing to use it to remind yourself that I've changed the signs of both. Next step, Viviana. What are we going to get? Yeah, bring them down. What are we going to get? 2x squared minus 2x squared? Gone, right? Okay. So what are we going to get here? What are we going to get here? Positive or negative? So negative 5x. Good. Kobe, what's the next step? Drop the negative 35. Bring it on down. Okay. Laura, what's the next step? Before we can change the signs, we have to have something to put beneath it. By what? What do we need to multiply x by to get a negative 5x? Not positive 5, but negative 5. We want to make it match exactly. So negative 5x has to be taken times that x to make that go away, to eliminate it. Yep, make a match. Yes. So it would be a negative 5x and, oh, sorry, thank you. You're right. It's just a negative 5. So when I multiply x by negative 5, I get negative 5x. When I multiply 7 by negative 5, I get negative 35. Let's change the signs. So when we change the signs, this becomes positive, and we get a 0 again, right? So those guys are again factors. If I took 2x minus 5 times x plus 7, I get 2x squared plus 9x minus 35. Okay? Guys okay with those? All right, I want you to practice for a bit, and then I'm going to give you a little tougher one. Okay, so work on numbers 3 and 4. Blank space on your sheet. I want you to write down 4x to the 4th plus 5x minus 4 divided by x squared minus 3x minus 2. Because all the problems we've done so far can be done using something we'll teach tomorrow called synthetic division. Okay, what's different and unique about these is this one won't work with synthetic division. The only way we can do it is by long division. Okay, it's not simple enough to work with synthetic division. So we have to use long division, our big guns, to do this. Okay, I'll get you started. What do we have to multiply x squared by to get 4x to the fourth? A 1 times what gives me 4? And x squared times what gives me x to the fourth? Okay. Take x squared times this. Absolutely. Okay, notice we're missing some things, aren't we? Okay, so we need to have no x cubes. We have no x squareds. We have our 5x. And we have our 4. Okay. So now when we take our negative 3x times 4x squared, what do we get? Negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. X times x squared. And then negative 2 times this 4x squared, negative 2 times 4. And then we'll have an x squared. Now you get to change the signs of all three. All right, so finish that problem. I'll see you tomorrow. And number 7.